In a move that is not surprising, the Trump regime has decided that they will no longer put out an annual report on hunger statistics in America. Now, the timing of this is uncanny because I was all set to talk about hunger in the United States today. I will still likely make that video right after this one. Before this nightmare that we're living now, a lot of my content was focused around food justice, how people have a right to access nourishing, culturally appropriate foods, how we need to be building resilient local food economies that would strengthen not only our communities where we live, but our entire food system. And it would also be far more sustainable, right? This is a tremendous passion of mine for a long time. For many years, I ran a gardening project for a food bank in East Portland. In my own garden, I had volunteers coming 3 times a week. We would grow and harvest food. I taught workshops on sustainable urban agriculture, beekeeping, poultry keeping in the city, etc., etc. And of course, one of my main interests, which is urban fruit cultivation. At the peak, my garden had like 46 fruit trees and 1 nut tree. I've pared it down a little bit over the last several years because it really was too much. I think I'm down to 32 fruit and nut trees. Anyway, food security, food justice, this is my wheelhouse. So yeah, seeing the Trump regime decide that they're no longer going to put out their annual hunger report, not surprising, Trump fired his data chief for being willing to honestly report on jobs data. He doesn't want factual information coming out about all the ways he's wrecking this country. He's making us more food insecure, more economically insecure. He's reducing our quality of life. He's increasing our suffering. Why would he want accurate reporting on that? Of course, he's going to try and suppress that information. So this new piece out today says, after cuts to food stamps, the Trump administration ends its government's annual report on hunger in America. We know that the regime is cutting food assistance on multiple levels, right? Not just in the United States, but also abroad. I will never miss an opportunity to remind everybody that Elon Musk destroying USAID is causing millions of people to starve to death around the world. Elon Musk and Donald Trump have created a holocaust against the world's poorest people who are starving to death. The Lancet says it will be 14 million people. I know there's a lot going on at home. There's a lot of harm that the regime is trying to do to us, but USAID not only purchased our good name, our influence around the globe, it not only was an agricultural subsidy that kept so many of our farmers in good standing, able to work their farms. We purchased, our government, our tax dollars purchased sorghum, corn, wheat, soy, dairy that was shipped overseas as food aid for the world's poorest people, and that is all gone now. That was all done in the name of Donald Trump's America First agenda. Even though that was money that was going into the pockets of our farmers, it was pitched to MAGA as like, we're protecting our own interests. We don't want to care for people abroad. We need to take care of our own kids. And then this is probably the video where I was the most angry all year, the most upset all year. The regime turned around and cut USDA farm to school lunch programs, cut subsidies for school lunch programs, making America's poorest children hungrier. They're cutting food stamps to make America's poorest children hungrier. Not only that, but the regime has cut hundreds of millions of dollars from state food bank budgets. Food stamps are being decreased. At the same time, food bank budgets are being decreased. School lunch programs are being slashed. Who in America is being put first in that scenario? All of that money, by the way, that got converted into what? Tax cuts for billionaires. Tens of billions of dollars for ICE to terrorize our neighborhoods, snatch up immigrants and put them in concentration camps. I don't know about you. It doesn't seem like it's putting America first or making America great to snatch up our farm laborers out of the fields, stuff them into concentration camps where our tax dollars are being poured into CoreCivic and Geo Group for-profit corporations to keep those immigrants kept in basically like cages to the tune of $155,000 a year. And to afford all of that, we take away food stamps from America's poorest kids. We deprive our kids of free and reduced school lunch. We cancel programs that were connecting local farmers to local school programs, making sure that local farmers stayed in business and that their crops were being purchased so that hungry children could get nourishing meals. Doesn't sound like it's fucking making America great again. Also a good time to remind you that the counties that take the greatest amount of food aid are rural Republican counties. This is hurting counties that voted for Donald Trump more than anybody else. So according to NBC News, this decision to no longer put out the hunger report comes 2.5 months after President Donald Trump signed legislation sharply reducing food aid to the poor. 3 million people in the U.S. are going to lose their SNAP benefits. This report, known as the USDA's Food Security Report, is being done away with by the Trump regime. They don't want you to know that Americans are getting poorer and hungrier. They don't want you to know that America's children are going hungry. Even before the regime, 1 in 7 American children experience food insecurity. We are the wealthiest nation on earth. I almost swore there. We're the wealthiest nation on earth. And yet we have 47 million people experiencing food insecurity on a regular basis. You know why? You know why? All that wealth is being funneled up from the working class and consolidated amongst the super rich. And the Trump regime has accelerated that process dramatically. We could end hunger in this country. We could end homelessness in this country. We could provide universal health care to every working class person in the United States of America if the super rich just paid all of the back taxes that they owed, and if they weren't getting a huge tax break from Donald Trump. If the super rich paid their fair share, we could have so much prosperity for the working class. All of that wealth that they have siphoned off from us, they are consolidating it, holding it up here. It doesn't come back to us. So our quality of life gets worse and worse and worse. More and more of us are going hungry, and it will continue to get worse. But they want opacity. They don't want you to see what is going on. They want to deprive you of the data so that you can't go to your elected officials. You can't go to your neighbors who voted for Donald Trump and say, see, Trump said he was going to put America first, that it was an America first policy. Then why is it that more Americans than ever are going hungry? Why is it that America's children in red rural counties have greater food insecurity than they had a year ago? Donald Trump wants to keep you in the dark about what he's doing. It's good to remind folks that according to the Census Bureau, that poverty was actually decreasing in the United States under Joe Biden. Trump really wants to hide that fact from you, but then he's doubly wanting to hide the fact from you that things are going to get worse. They're already getting worse. Critics of this decision by the regime are quick to accuse Trump and the USDA of deliberately making it harder to measure hunger and assess the impact of the regime's cuts to food stamps and other food aid programs. Trump is canceling an annual government survey that measures hunger in America rather than allow it to show hunger increasing under his tenure, said Bobby Kogan, Senior Director of Federal Budget Policy at the Center for American Progress. He went on to say this follows the playbook of many non-democracies that cancel or manipulate reports that would otherwise show less than perfect news. America's kids are getting hungrier. The future is less bright for America's children. Donald Trump is wrecking everything that we care about. He just doesn't want you to see what he's doing. He's trying to keep you ignorant and in the dark. But the reality is that he can try and obscure the data. He can try and hide the data, but we have to live with what he's doing. We all know. We know that things are not good. We know that things are getting worse for all of us. We see the cost of food in the grocery stores. We understand how our bank accounts are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. We understand that we are not more prosperous. We understand that the regime has not put us first. He can try and hide that fact. He can try and keep us ignorant of it. But we see our kids going hungry. We see our neighbors' children going hungry. How much longer are we going to put up with this? It doesn't have to be this way in the wealthiest nation on earth. How much longer? How much longer are you willing to tolerate it? Ask your Trumper neighbors. Ask your cousins in Indiana. How much longer are you willing to put up with this? Is this what you envisioned when Donald Trump said he would make America great again? Is this what you envisioned when you thought that things were going to be more prosperous under a Trump regime? How many more of your freedoms are you going to hand over while he makes your life actively worse, makes you hungrier, makes your children hungrier? How much more are you going to hand over to him? How much more time are you going to give him to make America great? How many more of your freedoms, how much more of your liberty are you handing over? How much more of your children's future and prosperity are you going to give the regime before you say enough is enough?